Welcome back, my friends. I hope all of you are doing well. We are here right between the holidays, early December between Thanksgiving and Christmas. As you've seen in the last couple of videos, we took the Super out for its first track day shakedown. Everything went well, set the brake bias. Then we took it to Americana right after Thanksgiving. I did build a new carburetor for this, and I'm very eager to run it on the chassis dyno soon and get all the small bugs worked out. I would say more of them were in fueling and carburetor than anything else. The car ran, stopped, shifted, everything ran great. It was awesome, and I love it to death, and I can't wait to run it again in the spring. This thing, the black car, the budget build, we're gonna jump back on this. Since the last video, you guys saw me pressure wash it and everything in the wake of actually Hurricane Helene that came through. Since then, I've taped off all the crush panels. I've gone through and scuffed the entire chassis and repainted it with Sim chassis gray. I used green Scotch Brite's 120, 150 grit sandpaper. Went back through Sim chassis gray. All the flat black areas are Sim black. I think it came out really good for what it is, and it's something that you can do in your home garage. Like I said, I'm gonna do as much as I can to reuse parts on this car, and if I can't, I'm gonna use good quality used parts that I either have in my collection or that I'll purchase, and I'll show you what I paid for them. At the end of this build, I'll give you a grand total on what we spent with it. Reminder, this car is gonna get a G-Force transmission and a Phase 11 Toyota engine. Now, those are things that can be flexible for you, but the rest of the parts are something that are very obtainable for you as well. Some people ask me all the time, what does a Toyota engine cost? It depends on what you buy and who you get it from. Engine in the Supra, that's a $28,000 to $32,000 engine. Transmission's about $7,500. So those are just some of your base costs that I can give you on that. This motor I bought used, it's going in this car. I did have valve springs, timing belt, and gaskets put in, main bearing check, cam bearing check. Altogether in this motor, I've got about 15 grand. So it's a little more budget friendly. It does have 2 races on it. So you'll see that when we go put it in. But what I'm gonna do now is give you a walk around, show you this car up close, where we've touched up all the paint, how it looks, and then we're gonna work on the oiling system. My goal for this video is to put the dry sump tank in it, the undercar lines, and the lines go from the dry sump tank to the undercar line, and our heater probes and the wiring for that. Very simple stuff. We're going to reuse what was there already. It's a Peterson 5-gallon tank. I've already cleaned it. I've cleaned the lines. I've cleaned the hoses. Everything is in great condition that came off of the car. I don't see any problems with it. We're going to put some heat shield on the lines, and we're going to bolt everything back up. Let's just walk around real quick, and then we're going to jump on that. So here it is, Circle Track Chassis 022. This is an original TRD chassis, and it was run by Bill Davis, and then it was sold and it ended up with Kirk Shelmerdine. This is one of the last cars that he raced. You've seen pictures of it before. I bought it off the internet for $2,500. That was my initial investment. Now I did pressure wash it and clean everything, and as you can see, the crush panels are out of the car now. I'm making new ones since I pulled those out. This entire front subframe had surface rust and different pits and parts all over it. Everything you see here is what I also pressure washed and cleaned. I did leave the radiator ductwork. We're going to reuse that, as well as the front brake ducts on it as well. So the radiator ductwork, I have a radiator that fits this perfectly. I am going to make a new top piece to mount the new radiator, and I have an actual separate oil cooler that sits in front of it and stacks with the radiator. But the entire chassis has been completely cleaned. All of it's been repainted, as you can see. Still has the original inspection numbers on it for RFID tags. Our brake ducts are in it. It came out really good, and I'm really happy with it. All the way around, it's a very solid car. Over here on the driver's side, one of the things that I'm going to have to fix is the actual steering column mount. Lack of a better term, that is ugly. So all of this is going to get cut out, and then I'm going to make an entire plate with a support bearing to hold the steering column there. This is for our gas pedal mount. It does have tilt and brake and clutch masters and reservoirs. The entire frame came out really good, and I'm happy with it. Brake ducts are not damaged. I do have a sway bar for it. We're going to put a 2-inch in it that I have, just what I have laying around. We're going to run that. Brake lines are still in it. I masked them all off when I painted it. You can see where it's had several sets of crush panels in it before, and we're going to build brand new ones out of brand new 043 aluminum, and we'll silicone and rivet them in. Now, up here, the actual cowls and the actual air intake, this car did not come with any. Luckily, I have some that came from Michael Waltrip Racing that fit this car perfectly, and I will fit those to this car. The interior of the car, completely repainted. As you can see, the floor, underneath the footwell and the pedals, the tunnel. Right side floor pan. The actual oil tank. You can see where I repainted the top. Top's been completely repainted, new seals at gaskets been put in. That is perfect. I taped over this area so that it kept the original pads and probes decal on it because we're going to put all of that wiring back in. You have a TRD decal right here. It's a Triad chassis, CT022. It's a road course chassis. It's nice and clean. Here's where our battery box was. We're going to do something special and we're going to move the battery box in this car because it's going to be my own personal track day car. The paint came out clean. In the package tray, we resprayed the black. This is textured. We used Sim trim black, cleaned it all up. No rust in the package tray, jack bolts are out, everything is clean. Let's move back to the trunk. Let's open this up. Inside the trunk, there was some minor rust in the fuel cell area. All of that's been cleaned, been shined up, buffed down, spray painted. Crush panels were in good condition. Back of the car is really clean. Sometimes you'll see these sit outside and people will buy them. And quite literally, the fuel cell area will be filled up with water and rust and it'll look like dog shit. That's just my personal opinion. Now let's take a look at where the trunk latch was in this car. As you can see, the trunk lid is marked 22, chassis CT022. It's all over this car. So up here is where the trunk mount hinge was that holds the hinge up. It was actually down here on the sheet metal and it broke. I moved it here, welded it back in, touched up the paint, and it mounts to the bottom right there. That's what's going to hold the trunk open. We still have our Brown & Miller fuel line in here. Every hose on this car is going to be Brown & Miller as well. I have the fuel cell rack. I repainted it. It's going to go back in here, and it will bolt front and back all the way around, and this will hold a brand new fuel cell. I did clean all that up, and I painted the fuel cell rack with Steal It. Like I said, crush panels are amazing in this car. As we close that up, you can see on the rear, we have our own TV plate. As you can see in the back, it's got taillight decals on it, Toyota decal, Toyota ID decal. Over here on the right side, this is where our fuel line runs. This is where our gear cooler is. Gear cooler was here. This one was empty on this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our gear cooler for our rear gear here, for our transmission over here. I have both of those put away. Chassis is nice and clean. Chassis number's been cleaned up, as you can see. CT022. There's the TV plate. That's the original BDR TV plate that came with it. As you can see down here on the fuel line, it may be a little upside down, but COT22. Got RFID tags all over this thing, all over the place. And it came out really clean. I'm super happy with how clean this car came out. I've always wanted to run a big splitter COT car. I'm gonna build my own ignition panel. It's gonna go right here. But this is one that I was able to build on a budget with you guys and let you guys see how it's done. All of this, Sim trim black. Dash panel, same top. I took the Lexan out of it right there, and we're gonna put a new piece in. This will all get rewired, and the ignition panel will sit over here on this side. Wait till you guys see some of the stuff that I do. I think it's gonna come out really cool. Underneath the car, we'll go back here towards the back. All of this has been touched up and painted and cleaned. I have the hard tunnel. There's a tire bead blower that comes through the actual crush panel. That's an original piece. I'm just going to leave it there. There's no real need to pull it out. I'll just cap it off. There's actual quarter fender braces, both sides of the car, and I'm pretty happy with those too. But underneath, everything is nice and clean, front and rear. Overall, I'm happy with the way it looks. I'm happy with the way it came out. I think the body's pretty straight for what it is. And now it's time to jump on the oil tank. Let's walk over here. Man, it's warm in here. 70 degrees, holy crap. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna work on our oil tank. All of this has been cleaned. There's our tank, there's our baffles, stainless hard lines that run under the car. There's our Brown & Miller flex lines that go from the hard lines to the tank. We're gonna put some insulation on them. We're gonna jump on that now. Well, it's pretty warm in here, so I'd take my flannel off. Probably should pay for good insulation, I guess. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put some heat shrink on our actual lines that go from the stainless lines under the car to the dry sump tank. And then we're going to get our lines in. These are the undercar clamps that hold the stainless lines right there to the bottom of the car. They're made out of steel. I painted them with Steal It. And then I took some heat shrink tubing onto each and every one of them. As you can see here, they've got it on there. And I've just put some heat shrink on there, heated on there. And that acts as an insulator and an isolator between that mount and the frame. Now, a lot of people put rubber mounts and rubber doohickeys and all this crazy shit on there. I've seen people do that several times. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark these once we get them on the car, and then we'll put the rubber isolator on there to keep them from banging against the bottom of the chassis and the mount itself. But first, we're gonna put some heat sleeving on these things. Now, there's a wide range of heat protection material out there. We're gonna use some of this. This is a aluminized fiber mat material. And it comes in several sizes and styles, and I'll show you some of these right here. All this comes in several sizes and styles, as you can see. So in the old days, most of the teams used this Aeroquip. This stuff is heavy, it's not very flexible. It is a fiberglass mat material with a silicone sleeve on the outside. As days went by, that material got thinner. They realized how heavy this was. This is the same material, same color, but it's much lighter, much more flexible than the old stuff. The old stuff doesn't flex very much at all. So this stuff comes in orange and silver, depending on who you buy it from. It's very flexible. You can open it up, put it around larger tubes, and then you have the aluminized material that has a fiber weave on the inside. As you can see, we've got multiple widths and sizes of the same material here that we can use. All of this is stuff that I've had left over. We're going to use the silver aluminized material on this tube and this tube, and we're going to put some heat shrink on them, and then we'll put them on with the tubes underneath the car. So let's work on that. Now this sleeve right here slides right on. All we're going to do is we're going to open up the end, slide it in. We will slide it over the tube, and a lot of people are wondering, well, it's undercar, why do you need that protection? Well, it wasn't on here when I got the car, and when I went to clean it, every single bit of this Brown & Miller hose was packed with aluminum, had a bunch of gravel stuck in it and everything, because this hose flexes, and that stuff will pack against especially hot rubber. So what we're doing is we're going to add this on here, we're going to heat shrink it on, and it's going to add a layer of protection that will also help keep it clean. You have to remember, this is a road course car and a personal track day car. Unlike what NASCAR teams would do typically for every race car. If you're in your Daytona car, Daytona, February runs to 500, that car more than likely won't run again until Daytona in July or Talladega in April. Between then, teams will tear that car completely apart, clean every single bit of it, put it back together, make it as light as possible, and run it again. We don't have that luxury. I am not going to take this car apart every single time. I've got 14 cars, and this one, when I get it done put together, I'm going to run the heck out of it. And unless something breaks, I'm not going to take it apart. I'll clean it, I'll pressure wash it, I'll wipe it down, use SD20 and keep it as clean as possible. And this is one thing that helps me achieve that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to wrap it on here, we're going to use some aluminized tape to hold it in place and hold that seam closed so that no dirt can get in there. We'll peel this off. And this comes in complete rolls. I like the 3M brand. It's a little more flexible and it's a little more sticky than some other brands. That's not an endorsement, it's just what I buy and nobody gave it to me. I'm not here to sell you some bullshit that I don't fucking use. Like some crappy VPN or some hot dogs that come to your doorstep because I'm too lazy to make something. So we will take this, run it down like this, fold it over completely, and that aluminized tape will hold every bit of that closed. Now, will it hold it in place and will it keep it from dirt getting in? No, that's what the heat shrink tube is for. So we're going to put two pieces of heat shrink tube on. This one's going to go up here. We're going to cover that end, and this one's going to go on the bottom, and it's going to cover this end here. So what I'll do now is I'll plug in my heat shrink gun. We'll heat these. They'll shrink around the end of that. Now that we've completed the 16 feed line from the bottom of our tank to the pump, we're going to set that aside and we're going to go to our number 20 line. This is the return. Now, like I said before, this has a swivel on the top. As you can see, you can spin that and you can clock it. Is it necessary for this one? Not with a straight on the other end, really. Now, I've got various sizes of different heat shrink or heat shielding material to go on this hose. The most important thing you need to figure out first is, will it fit over the end of the coupler? This one will not. As you can see, it's very tight and it won't go on it. Now, this piece is a different size. It's actually a 1/2 inch larger. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out the exact length that we need, which is going to go from there to there, and we'll cut it. To cut, we'll slice that across there. Now, not everybody, I can tell you up front, I know this already, and I'm going to show you how to do this without using a heat shrink tube for one reason. The 2 1/4 to 2 inch piece of heat shrink tube that you need to cap the ends of this, if you buy a foot of it, it's, I want to say $54 for that piece, and you have to buy a minimum of a foot. A lot of people don't want to spend $54 to do it. Don't worry about the cut end. The cut end is not a big deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the actual hemmed side at the very top. Slide this over our tube and get this all the way on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use our aluminized tape to lock this in place. So as you can see, we have extra material. Unless you're putting this on prior to crimping your fittings and you can get a tight material, aluminized tape is your best way to go, and I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a couple pieces, and then we're going to go down and we're going to close the gap by pinning it down with these 3 pieces. And I'll show you how we do that. So we'll cut these 3 pieces, we'll peel them, we'll go over the middle, and then we'll work to the ends. We'll close the gap, and then we'll seal it right down the seam with another piece of aluminized tape. What we'll do is we'll peel this piece, figure out where our seam is at right here, put it on this end, then we will fold it over, run it around the back of the tube, and that closes the seam there. We'll keep doing this with 2 more pieces, make it really easy. We'll go to the top, we'll fold the top seam here, we'll lay it down and we'll hold it. We'll take our aluminized tape, make sure it's seated on the actual heat sleeve, then we'll roll it around here. We'll do it again at the bottom. There's my other piece, there it is. We'll grab this, and we'll roll it around the bottom. So what we'll do here, take it, we'll fold it down, and then we'll roll it right here all the way around the bottom. So this piece will roll here and seal that off. Now we have a seam here. So we're going to take a piece of tape and we're going to go down this seam and we're going to close that up so no rubber, dirt, or rocks can get into that seam. So we'll lay it out here and we'll pull off a longer piece right there. We'll trim this up and we'll go from there. Come on, man. Now this stuff likes to roll back and stick to itself. It's not going to hurt it to pull it. It's just like a vinyl decal when you pull that back. So we're going to roll this hose out. We'll lay it up here. And then we'll work it down on this side, getting it fully seated before we actually roll it over the hose. So we'll get this end fully seated. We'll get that piece fully seated. And what that'll do is on the back side, where this gap is, when we close it, if you look in here, you'll see that gap. We'll roll this over and close it. The aluminum tape will seal it. So what we'll do now is we'll pull this tight. We'll roll that tape over, and we will seal the entire thing. Now, there's one more level of protection that we're going to add to this that you can do as well, and it's very simple. Is the good old zip tie, good old cable ties. Now, personal preference. There are a lot of cable ties out there. I like the ones with the stainless steel end in them. The one that have a tang in it that's plastic that folds over and locks it and you can release it with the end of a zip tie. Those are fine for minuscule things like mock-up and things you're going to cut and throw away. If you're going to use it long term, go with the stainless steel tip and the smooth cable tie so that it locks in. Reason being, with that little tang on the plastic ones, as they get hot, they get old, especially the white ones, they become brittle and they'll pop off completely on their own. If you tighten these up and cut them off with a set of flush cuts yourself, these are pretty much rock solid and they're not going to move anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some on here. We're going to wrap them around and we're going to lock them in place. I'm just going to put them on now. And then what I'll do is I will grab my flush cuts and then I will pull these tight and trim them off. So each and every one of these is going to go on. We'll lock it in place. I'm going to put 4 on this hose and they all go the same direction. I try and keep everything uniform. I've seen people put zip ties on every which way come Sunday on a race car. It goes with the same thing using different fittings. I've seen people that say, oh, I restored this car myself and it's 100% correct. And half of the fittings are Earls, the other are AeroQuip. And they've got 2 Brown & Miller hoses on there, and Brown & Miller was never even in business and the hoses didn't exist in the 80s. I've seen that bullshit happen too. And then people say you're an asshole for telling them that's the wrong hose or you shouldn't do it that way. But that's just me venting. So we get the flush cuts, cut that off, and that is the heat sleep protection on our main return hose. Now if you don't flush cut these and you just use any Johnny-come-lately pair of snips to cut those off, they will leave a tab on the end of that. And as you can see, if you trim it flush, you can rub the shit out of it and it's not going to cut you. Unlike all the other ones, if you don't use a set of flush cuts. Now that is our finished return hose with heat protection on it, aluminized tape sealing the entire thing, and cable ties. That's not coming off or going anywhere. That's keeping the heat and the oil, and it's keeping dirt and debris from getting trapped in your hose and making it look ugly. Up next, let's talk about our oil lines. Now, our main feed line is a number 16 and our return is a number 20. One of the questions I get a lot of the time from people is how to clean these, or is there a special solvent or a special way to do it? The outside of these, I've simply cleaned with a Scotch-Brite pad. Took what little bit of surface rust from some of the old fittings and some of the old clamps off of it, cleaned them up. There's nothing on the outside of them. Now to clean the inside, here's how I go about it. Number 16 caps. I'll cap one end, I'll dump mineral spirits or acetone inside the line, put the other cap on the other end, shake it up, let it sit out in the sun, shake it some more, let it sit out in the sun some more, shake it some more. That way it gets hot in there and it'll build a little bit of pressure. So you have to be careful when you take the end off of this. It will actually have a little hiss or spit to it because with the sunlight, the tube gets hot, everything in the gases inside expands, so it's going to come under pressure. Once I do that, I drain it, blow it out with compressed air. Then I take a piece of safety wire. I've had this piece of safety wire, I've cut it out of a roll probably 4 or 5 years ago and probably cleaned 20 or 30 lines with it. But as you can see here on this end, put a small loop on one end. That'll be your lead end, fish it through. On the tail end, take it, wrap it around a microfiber towel or a lint-free cloth and pull it through in both directions. So we'll go one way, take the rag off, get a new rag, pull it through the other way, see what's on it as far as residue, and that's clean. That's already been done with both of these. What we're going to do next is we're going to take both of these and our clamps, we're going to bolt these up under the car. As you can see, I've got tape on the ends, simply because I know they've been cleaned, they can off-gas, nothing's going to get back into them, and I don't need the actual caps back on them. So we're going to put this stuff over here, and then we're going to slide under the car and bolt these in place with our clamps. We've got 1/4 20 nylock hardware, and washers and a ratchet. Now once I put these underneath the car, we're just going to snug them in place with the ratchet. They're not going to be tight, they're not going to be set because I don't know where they need to go fore and aft. I don't know where the hoses will hook up and where everything will land until ultimately our dry sump tank is finished and put back together and mounted in the car. But we're going to get this stuff done. I'm going to leave these in the car, we're going to tighten these up underneath, and then we'll get to work on our dry sump tank. So here we are back under the car with both lines, and as we mount them, they're going to go in just like that on each side. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these mounts and the hardware, and we're going to hang it up here loose. I believe I can slip them in behind it. So what we'll do is we'll throw one of these on. We'll take both lines and we'll set them up here. There's one, and there's two. So what we'll do is we'll come back here to the back real quick. Slip this up here. And both of these should turn that way. There we go. Grab a nut and a washer. We'll stick this on here. And like I said before, this is all just temporary. I'm not just going to go cranking down on it and tightening everything into place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the washer and the nut on here. And then once I get everything where I need it to be, we'll get back in here and we'll tighten everything up. Throw a couple turns on there. We'll get that one straightened out. All these are going to go like this. And usually, depending on how your lines are bent, it kind of tells you which way it wants to go. As you can see, we have the rise and the line here to follow the contour of the floor pan. So when it rotates, it'll actually bind itself. What we're going to do is we'll get this one on. We'll rotate them both up. This one will slide right in. I keep dropping stuff. It's a pain in the butt doing things as a one-man show, but you know, nobody's going to steal from you. Nobody's going to talk shit about you. Although I see that all over the internet. I find it kind of funny. And with the tension that's on that, I think that's in a good spot. We'll leave that be. I think, ultimately, when I rotate these down, I'm going to put some red silicone weather strip on there to keep those from vibrating against that. But as you can see, I put some up here in the front. There's some here in the middle, and there's some here in the rear where they sit. Actually keeps it from vibrating against the chassis. I'm happy with the way that looks. I'll leave it loose, hanging where it's at now. And what we'll do is we'll start working on the oil tank, getting that put back together, and the wiring for our heater bands and our heater probe. And once it's hung, we'll hook up our lines here. So here we are back at the workbench. It's a new evening. A lot of times people ask me, how do I find time to build cars, work doing restorations, do commercials, do Toyota ride-alongs, do all these different things, and build my own stuff at the same time, and it comes down to time management. It is a Wednesday evening. I worked today, got home, had dinner with my wife. It was amazing. She owns her own business as well. She's inside doing some work. So while she's doing that, I'm going to come out here and put this oil tank together. Now, what we have here are a bunch of bands. So we have our mounting bands, our rubber isolators for the tank. We have our tank band. This band actually holds the two portions of that seal together. And then in the back, we have our heating bands. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our upper and our lower half, which already has a heating probe in it. As you can see right here, that's our feed going to our oil pump. That's our drain, and this is our temperature probe that will tell us what the oil temperature is when we preheat it. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this over and put it in the vise. As you can see, I've already cleaned the inside, and you can see my 500 watt heating probe that goes into the bottom and actually heats the liquid inside the tank. The difference between that and bands is that the band will clamp onto the outside of the tank. Now, there's nothing wrong with the band, but what you have to understand is that the band is not just heating the oil, the band is also heating the entire tank. So the first thing you have to do is heat this tank before it starts to heat the oil inside, where a probe inside of a tank goes right into the center of the oil and starts heating the oil itself as you prime it. It helps accelerate the oil heat exchange rate. So I like to use probe and bands to make this work pretty efficiently. As you can see, there's an O-ring seal on the outside. I've cleaned the inside of both the lower and the upper half of the tank with acetone, wiped it out, cleaned it with brake cleaner again, wiped it out, blew it out with compressed air. You can see our main oil feed pickup in the bottom. This is where our oil feed pickup is. Now that tube goes down towards the bottom, towards the drain, so that all of the oil drains to the bottom of the tank. Now this is baffle. This is the lower baffle, and this is the upper baffle. Now these go together in the tank like that to create one baffle piece. Now, this notch here is for this tube on the inside of our dry sump tank, as you can see right here. So what happens is that tube is facing the bottom. This will go in as our lower baffle, line up and slide into the tank, just like that. And then on the ledge at the top, it sits flat right here so that when the top goes on, this does not interfere with the seal. Now the top half will bolt onto here, but our upper baffle goes on as well. When the tank itself is being scavenged by the oil pump out of the engine and fed back here and refilled, it comes in at the top, sprays it at the inside edge of the tank so that it swirls around, and it knocks all of the bubbles and aeration out of that oil, and it refills the tank. The baffles also help with that. The oil hits the side of the tank, swirls, runs down, lands on top of here. The bubbles evaporate and actually exit the tank in a vent. That cuts down on your aeration. So we're going to take this whole thing, we're going to put it back together, and then we're going to mount it in our car, and we're going to mock it up. Now the tank is marked. I took a electric pencil, marked the tank in 2 spots. That way I know where both halves go together and where the orientation is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it in the vise. We're going to hold it up. We're going to put all the pieces back in it, and then we're going to clamp it together. Now I have the lower portion of my tank clamped in the vise. This is not cranked down on very hard. This is literally just enough to hold it in place and balance it. It actually clamps onto that lower AN cap to keep it in place. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the lower half of our baffle in, and then we'll line that up with our feed tube and our notch here. So we'll stick this in, line it up, and that's in. Pretty simple, nothing much to it. Now we're going to take the top. We're going to put the top on. It looks like it may not clear, but it definitely will because I've tried this before and I've done it. Now, as I said before, you can see right here on our tank, there's a notch right there. There's a notch right here on the tank. We're going to line those up and then we're going to bolt it together. So this drops on the top. Entire tank lines up. And then what we'll do next is we'll take our sealing band, and our sealing band will go on. Loosen this up. That O-ring will lock the entire tank together. We'll slide this around. And where I put the 2 notches were on each side of the sealing band. So when this pulls together right here, the sealing band is going to lock that in place. And I don't have to worry about it moving or leaking. I'll put my washer on here. And then we'll grab a 7/16 and we'll lock this into place. It's pretty simple. It's a very easy design. If you have one of these tanks in your car, it makes it very easy for you to take it apart and clean it. Now the outside of the tank was dirty, had a bunch of grunge on it, rubber stuck to it. The outside I cleaned with brake cleaner and nothing more than a simple Scotch-Brite pad. Cleaned up the entire tank. Once it was clean, I did put caps on it, so when I put it in the car for mock-up, nothing gets in or out of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a wrench and we're going to tighten that. Now when you tighten this, you don't want to over tighten it. I've made 2 marks with the electric pencil on each side of the clamp when it was clamped before I released the pressure. One of the things I did was I started out both sides of the clamp evenly on both sides of that mark. So as I pulled it, it evenly closed and it actually applied pressure to that ring which seals on the O-ring from the upper and lower half. So now that I can see on that ring that this is actually closed up, that's where I'm going to stop at. This is pretty tight. What we're going to do now, we're going to take the upper band. We're going to put the rubber straps back on it that are isolators. And when I cleaned it, it left a witness mark right here that shows that this clamp went on the back here. And it was actually locked in place right there. So what we're going to do first is we're going to add this clamp. We're going to put it on here and we're going to snug it up. We're going to hang it in the car. We're not going to put the bottom clamp on and we're not going to put the heating pads on yet because I want to see in the car if I can make adjustments. Now I know typically, rule of thumb, depending on the height of your tank, and I've seen people that measure it from the bottom to the very tip top of the actual neck, but the neck doesn't hold any fluid. This is a vent up here. Your highest point of fluid is going to be your return right here, is you want to be about 10% above halfway. That's why I always run them at. This is a 5-gallon tank. When the car runs and we prime the system, we get oil into the lines, we get oil into the oil cooler, into the filter, into the engine. This tank may only have 4 gallons of oil in it to about here, but throughout the system, it may be close to 6 because you have oil in the cooler, like I said, in the filter, in the pump, in the lines. It doesn't just magically get there free. It has to be in the line and everything to provide pressure. So once we get this in the car and we fill it up, we'll heat and prime it. Once we're starting to prime the engine, we get oil and pressure to the gauge. We get pressure in the oil cooler. We get pressure in the filter and the motor. That will pull this tank down and draw it down. When the tank gets drawn down, what we're going to do is we're going to measure that. That's going to be our resting oil level. That's without the engine running. We'll see where that's at. We'll make a note. Once we get it heated enough, we're going to fire the car. The car running engine oil pressure there is completely different than what you see on a drill. A running engine oil pressure will actually draw this down more because the oil pump in the car will actually compress the oil and make pressure. Now, what that will also do is move it quicker. You will get more in the pan with a dry sump pan, evacuating it to the back of the car while it's running than you will with a drill. You have to remember that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put our rubber bands on here that actually isolate the tank for vibration and keep these stainless bands from wearing a hole in the aluminum. We're going to put those on real quick, and then we're going to stick it in the car, and we're going to figure out where everything else is going to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is take these. They've got a little channel on them. Pretty easy, pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to take these, we're going to stick them on. They slide right over. One of the things I will do to help explain this oil system even better is I will leave a link in the description. I did a full breakdown on a dry sump system with the Toyota half car that I have, and it breaks down where the pump is, where the lines go, how it's fed, and where everything's located. I'll leave a link in the description of this video for that one. And once I get these straps on here, which are being a total pain in the butt. Now, this is notched on the back. This is a Peterson mount. Now it's notched here on the back. The reason being, the screws are in the car. You can take it, hang it up there, one person, make it happen easy. So we're going to take this, wrap it around. This is another T-bolt clamp. It'll go through here. We'll set the top up. Take the washers and the bolt. Very simple. We'll throw these on. We'll throw a few rounds in this to get it snug and even. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this one in the car as well. And we'll figure out where our probes go. And we'll figure out where our bottom mount is at. Now I have my oil tank, my hardware, and a Sharpie. As you can see, when I was saying my notched mount. So I have these two screws here. They're actually 1/4 20s. We're going to back these out. I have a large washer on them. Take a few more turns off of that. And what this tank is going to do is hang from these two screws. So we're going to push the washers out. We're going to get the tank in here, and it's going to sit up and over on these two screws right here. This is my bottom band clamp. There's a mount here. So we're going to get it in place. We're going to clamp this on the bottom, and we're going to take a Sharpie and mark it. Now you can mark your tank with a Sharpie. You can mark it with tape. A Sharpie is more permanent, but over time it wears off. Tape you definitely have to peel off before you heat and prime it, or it will catch fire. So we're going to get this in position, and we're going to kind of locate where we want it to be, see where our hoses are, and then the vacancy on the tank will show us where we can put our heating pads. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lift this thing up and get it in. And that's it. That's where that portion hangs. We'll bring the lower clamp around on both sides. And grab our hardware and a ratchet, and we will tighten this up. I've been asked a few times, why do I not use electric tools or ratchets or electric 12-volt ratchets or impact drivers or anything like that? Coming from the aviation industry, we didn't use them because you can't over-tighten stuff and break it and fracture it. So I've always used very simple, very effective hand tools and never had a problem with any of this. If you like to use them, go for it. That's on you. But that's where our tank is going to sit. Now, our outlet for one line is here. My heating wiring can go up this way, which will be perfectly fine. And then my outlet, let's see where that is at. It's right there. Awesome. So I'm very happy with that. Happy with the way it's sitting. The only thing I have to do is pull the top back in place. But now I know where my clamp is going to mount. What I can do is take my Sharpie, mark this here. Now I have my probe in the bottom of the tank here, so I don't want to just wrap my heating element around the bottom. One of the things it'll do is to put it lower towards the track, and I don't want that. I want something to hit it. I don't want it to snag anything on the electrical wiring harness I'm going to build here. So this one will actually run back under the tank and go towards the front, but be held out of the way with safety wire. The one I want to put on the top is going to be here. This tank will be filled above this band, so I'm not worried about that. Even when it's cold and I go to heat it, the band will go on here, and this will heat the top portion of the tank. The probe will heat the center of the tank, and this will heat it evenly. As you continuously cycle the oil, it will pull that down, refresh it with colder oil, that will heat up, and you keep doing that until your car reaches operating temperature to start it. Run to the car though, you can see the hard tunnel. This car is set up a little bit different than what the Supra is set up. Under here, I touched up a lot of the paint. I didn't take the brake lines out of it like the Supra had none, so I had to make all that stuff. But as you can see, some of this stuff's going to get wiped down and cleaned up even more. I did clean up in the fender wells and inside the body and everything with touch-up paint, but I've got to make a hard tunnel bottom. I have a square one. Some of these you will see one side's higher than the other. Those were built in certain ways so that they could fold the bottom of the hard tunnel and make it a little bit more lower ground clearance when they went away from that and the car could squat lower. But this is a standard tunnel, and I have a small half-round bottom to go on here. Our oil coolers are going to go here. I've got two for this. One's going to be for the transmission, and one is going to be for the rear end. That will probably be in the next video, making that duct work and getting those mounted. So now let's take this back out. Like with anything in a race car, there's a lot of mock-up. It's all clean. We're going to take it out. I'm going to lock this clamp in place. We're going to take it off the body. We're going to lift it out, and we're going to put the electrical bands into it. Now here we are back at the bench. Dry sump tank is out of the car. My bands that hold it securely to the chassis are in place. Up now we're going to install our heating bands. Like I said, these are going to go around the mid portion of this tank. They're going to be above the heating probe. They're going to heat the upper half of the tank externally. So we're going to heat it from the outside and from the inside with the probe. Now these go through a simple band. This band doesn't matter. Polarity goes either way on these. You can put positive here or negative here. There is no ground. You put a positive and a negative to it. Now, one of the things that I do is where this mounts to the back of the car, where you saw those studs, it will get a ground wire going to that. Some people say, well, with that rubber band, it's not going to help. Well, the stainless steel clamp touches here, and the aluminum band touches back here. Same thing with the side. The tank will get grounded, and when it gets grounded, these will get grounded. So we will have a neutral, and we will have current, and then the green will go actually to the tank and ground it when we plug our heater box in. So if anything happens, it will ground to fault, it'll trip a breaker, kill the box, nobody gets hurt. Pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to set these up. So as you can see, our heating probe is right here on the back side of the tank. The bracket is parallel with the racking, and this is how it's going to mount in the car with the hoses that we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to put two of these towards the rear of the car, two of those lugs. That way I can tie into my heating probe that goes here and make a harness that runs up the back of the tank. You may wonder why up the back of the tank. Well, you run off course, the car's traveling forward. Things can hit the front of this tank, things can get kicked up here. Nothing is going to kick up going backwards unless you lose it, loop that sucker around and put your ass in the sand trap backwards. That's a whole nother story. But we're talking about racing the car in a forward direction. So we're going to have a set here, positive and negative, and then on the back, we'll have a positive and negative, and we'll jump these over. It's a pretty simple idea, pretty simple theory. I'll show you how it's done when we bolt these on. Now this clamp, very simple clamp. You got two holes in it, that's where the band goes. When the band is actually in this clamp, we'll have a positive and a negative. It gets tightened up, and it will look something like that. Pretty simple. Now, on the other end, you've got two barrel lugs. One is a pass-through, very simple, and we use a fine thread quarter 28, and that will thread in here, and then we will tighten this up, and it will pull itself close on all of these lugs. Just like that, pretty simple. So we're going to get this together right now, and I will show you how it's done. Now I've got a couple threads on that. We're going to move it up. We're going to get it equal. We're going to make sure none of our lugs are touching the stainless steel band, like that. We'll get it even in the back. And then we can tighten it up here. And simple process to wiring this. We're going to use a Deutsch HD connector. On this end, we're going to have our current. Here's going to be our neutral side. So we have two bands. On one side, you have to put a current to it, and on the other side, you have to put a neutral. The resistance in the middle is what causes the heat, makes the band heat up. So what we're going to do on each end, because this is going to be our current side, we're going to put a jumper on it. Very simple. Both bands are going to be getting positive current on this side. Very easy, simple process to follow. Then what we'll do is we'll take this end of the actual clamp. We're going to put it here, just like this. Very simple, positive current going in. We'll tighten it up, and we'll do it on the back side as well. These are holding it in place. These are insulated from heat. That's what the white band on the outside is. And then the actual wire itself is insulated. So this will go here, and this will come up the back. And I will show you how this works in a moment. I'm happy with that right there. We'll put our jumper on the back. You don't want to tighten these too tight. You can break that element inside of the heating band and it will not work. Now this is our harness here. Our harness is going to come down around the bottom. It's going to stay near the mount, and in the back, it will come up here. Now I've seen some people that have done some crazy shit to try and take this wire and lock it into place. I will leave this wire loose on the tank, but I will secure it to the car here and take up some of that tension. Now, this is not an operational current to your race car. What do I mean by that? You're not going around the racetrack with 120 volts of AC current coming out of the wall, going into this harness, heating up the oil in your car. This is all disconnected. This is a stationary piece of equipment that's used on the car. So what you need to do is not so much worry about it moving under acceleration in a car, but moving or grounding out when you're heating the car in the pit area. Now, we're going to tighten up the rear harness on this, and the probe that's on the bottom, we have to build another harness for all together. There's a plug that goes into the bottom of that. And now I'll show you a cap I made for that in another part of this video. We're going to tighten up the back. I'll show you both sides of this, and then we're going to mount it in the car. So the way this is going to work when it mounts on the car, I think I'm going to pull the bolt off of this side, and I'm going to use an A-dell clamp to hold this harness in place and keep it from moving. Let me grab one of those real quick. Now this is called an A-dell clamp. I don't know if you've seen these before. They're metallic. This one has a rubber boot on it, just like this band does, to help insulate it. It's going to go around the back side of our wiring harness here, and it's got a 1/4-inch hole in it. So when I bolt this into the car, it will hold itself in place and keep it from grounding out against the chassis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that works once we get it into the car. All right, once again, we've got our tank. We're going to get it mounted for the last time for the first time. Figure out that oxymoron. I've heard it a million times in a million different car shows. I think it's kind of funny. For the first time, for the last time. So what we got to do now is we have to take this one particular bolt completely out, because we're going to loop an A-dell clamp behind it. We'll get the bottom mount tightened and pulled in, and then we're going to work on the top with a gear wrench. Here. Yeah, that's just going to end up being a wrench, isn't it? Welcome back, guys. Day 3. Like I've said before, you got to take every chance and every free opportunity you get. Nobody's going to put a race car together for you, no matter how bad you want it. If you don't get out there and do it, it's never going to happen. Now, yesterday we finished up putting the tank, the lines, and the steel undercar lines in our, I was going to say Supra, but it's our Camry, our COT Camry. I'm going to show you that real quick. We're going to be done with that for now. I was digging out the hard wiring for this car, which is the 110 volt AC current power to the heater probes and pads. I'll show you that before we end this video. But I'm going to grab the camera, we're going to crawl into the car, look at the steel lines, we're going to look at the tank. I did have to take one line off. I didn't like the way that it curved around the side of the battery box. We're not going to use that battery box. I'm going to do something different. What I did do is I put the lid on it, take a piece of orange high temp heat sleeve and put it over the outside of the silver on that tube. It went around the corner of that battery box. It's kind of sharp on that edge. I was afraid it might rub. So I put that on there as a third level of protection. It doesn't look bad. It's not going to hurt anything. Like I said, I'm not going in and out of that battery box, so I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to do something different with it. We're going to move the battery to the right side. We're not going to have to weld to the chassis. We're going to have to cut anything off the chassis. We're going to have to do any of that to move the battery to the right side in a sealed box. That's going to be in a video down the road. But right now we're going to look underneath. As you can see, our stainless lines run all the way to the front of the car. They're held in with the clamps. I have some silicone weather stripping here to keep the tubes from vibrating. This is the curve I was talking about. I put this extra piece of orange heat sleeve protection on here to keep it from rubbing and vibrating, even though this hose isn't going to move. I sealed up the battery box and put the cover back on. I'm never going to use this battery box. We're going to move it. All of these connections are race tight, and I've safety wired the plug. Now our temperature heat probe, now this is what heats up the oil. There's a cap on here. I'm going to machine it on the lathe at work tomorrow, and we'll put all that in, and I'll run the wiring over, and we'll hook up our actual probes up here in our pads. Now, as you can see, this is wrapped. This is the complete bottom undercar installation, and the truck arm actually moves through here. So I don't have to worry about anything hitting here. I don't have to worry anything about hitting the bottom of the battery box. There's plenty of clearance in this particular corridor. That's the bottom. I'll grab the camera and we'll look down from the top where the vent is, and I'll show you how the top goes on it, and it actually has a vent coming through the top into the trunk. Now, up here on the top, you can see this is where our lid goes, and this is where the actual vent sticks out. I'll grab the camera and we'll take a look down the inside right here. As you can see, here's our number 20 return. Comes into the tank, scavenges all the oil, returns it to the top to flow down. This is our Wiggins vent cap. Once the lid goes on here, this is what's going to stick through, and I'll stick the lid on. Over here, you can see where our pad and probes come through. This is our electrical wiring with Deutsch connectors. Our heat temperature sensor is going to go in here. Now, I'm not going to do all that wiring yet, but I'll show you how the lid goes on. Now, I painted all this and cleaned it, and I put a new which seals around the neck of the grommet there. Now, this vent goes into the trunk of the car. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to use the original vent hole back here in this corner, or if I'm going to move it over to the right side. I haven't decided yet. That's all going to be determined by the actual location of our rear trunk mounted fire extinguishing nozzle. So I got to figure all of that out next. As you can see, I've got a cover to make for our battery box down here because we're not going to use that as well. We're back. I showed you how the wiring was and the installation in the car, and my intention was to wait until the next video to do the wiring. But I finished this plug today. And what I mean by finish it is I had one of these AN caps and I drilled it out like that. And this cap will slide over our pigtail for our heater probe that goes in the bottom of the tank. It's got some heat shrink on it, but this actually slides up, and originally this connection that goes into the bottom of the tank for the heater probe, this had a plastic cap on it. Now, after about 6 or 8, 10 times of heating it and letting it cool, running the car, let it cool again, that plastic cap will crack and fall off, and you will lose conductivity with your current to that heater probe. It's the same threads as an AN cap. That's what this is, a cap for one of those. What I did was I put it in the mill, and in the back of it, I just took a mill, put it in the tailstock, center drilled it, opened it up, slid it on, and that's what we're going to use. I'm going to heat up the heat shrink. We're going to close that up, and I'm going to put a Deutsch connector on the end of it. That one will go on. There are probably 100 videos out there on how to use a Deutsch plier crimp tool, but that is what they look like when they are crimped on there. Pretty simple. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fire up my heat shrink gun. And I'm just using standard DR25 Raychem heat shrink. It's got a 2-to-1 ratio, so it will shrink down 2 times to the size of its original diameter. Works on all of this, and it's got a glue on the inside that locks it into place. You don't have to worry about slipping or sliding. Now, the blue shield that you're seeing here, this is just simply a Moroso Blue Max silicone spark plug holder. This goes on the outside of an 8mm spark plug wire, and it's silicone, it's heat resistant. All of that is nice and locked into place. Turn this off, and that is my connector to go in the bottom of our oil tank. So all of this is locked into place, and like I said, when this goes in the car, this will mount at the top near our lid. This is down at the bottom. This one says heater probe, so this one's going to lock together like that and go down to our heater probe. Let's go ahead and install all of this in the car. We're going to do that real quick. I'm gonna grab some hardware and I'll meet you over there. So here we are, game time decision. I didn't like that big, nasty, white, clear, opaque looking heat shrink. So I separated the two. Pads and probes, we're gonna slide them through and hook them up. I've already hooked up my K-type thermocoupler. This is gonna need to be shortened to fit the plug here. And I didn't like the way that these were routed when they were hung together. So we're gonna take both of them. The first one here, this one is for our heater probe. So it's gonna go in here. We'll feed it in. We'll get it down to the bottom. And this is the way it was mounted when I originally picked up the car and disassembled it. So we're going to put our 1032s through here. So that's the finished product on the top. That's for our K-type probe, so we can plug that into our heater box, tell the temperature of the oil as it's heating. This is for the pads on the outside of the tank, and that is for the heater probe on the inside. Let's move underneath the car and work on a few things. As you can see, our wiring is hanging down here. Here we have for the blankets, which is these pads on the outside, and our probe here, we haven't put that wiring harness in yet. Next, we're going to take this one, we'll plug it in right there. That heats our pads. All of this is going to get a cable tie right down here to keep it out of the way and off of the tank. Next, we're going to install the AC power plug that goes into our internal heater probe right here. Line that up. Feel the plug snap in place. We'll take the aluminum into this cap. Now that's held in place and that's not going anywhere. Now this will plug into our heater probe power outlet right here. And then we will cable tie all of this . So now we have our heater probe in, the nuts on, silicone wrap around it with some safety wire holding it back so it doesn't hang down below the car. Spark plug boot, silicone sleeving on it, holding that wiring, keeping it from getting hot against the tank, allowing AC current to short. Deutsch connector tied back, K-type probe tied back, all of our wiring. This goes to our bands. And then as you can see, everything here, let's take a look at it from the top and I'll show you what it looks like. As you can see up here, probes, pads, heater element. Now this is the original heater plug harness. This would go in your heater box. This would run back to the car. When it's race time, you just unplug everything, take it out of the car, and this harness would go with you on pit road. Honestly, I'm not a fan of this harness. I think it looks like shit, but it's an original. It's the way it was made. So we're gonna keep this, and then I'll just plug this into my heater box. Lid goes on. And that's a wrap on getting the oil tank and lines in this thing. Hey guys, this is one of my more favorite portions of this entire YouTube process. That's the question and answering process. And the portion of the show I love the most is just the questions I get from people, random stuff. If you came out to the Americana show or Mount Airy and I spent time speaking to you, gave you a hat or a sticker pack, I greatly appreciate that. I love talking to everybody, talking about cars that I built, cars that I worked on, things I've done, technology in the sport, and random questions that I do get. So the first question we got is from Mark Alpine. Mark Alpine asks, what are all of the different bumps along the greenhouse and the fenders of your Xfinity Series car? Would like to know, thanks Mark. So as you can see on these cars, especially on the greenhouse, A post, B post, C post, areas on the fenders, quarter panels and everything, you'll see this little honeycomb shape. This is a tamper-proof shape. The NASCAR Xfinity Series has actually gone to a point now where these panels are no longer allowed to be painted. Everything's got to be wrapped just like a Gen 7 car. There was a team that got into a crash with one of these cars, and the reason being is that specific team, they got fined for it. I'm not going into names or naming people. It was not really something that was made public, I don't think. But what happened was they had 14, 16, 19 coats of paint on here that made the bubbles smooth. How much does that lower drag count in a wind tunnel? I'm not privy to that number. I don't know, but I know they got caught because the car was in a crash. went back to the R&D center from what I'm told, and when they started pulling the wrap off of it and looking at the car, all the bubbles were missing. Now, I'm not sure how much of this actually gets hidden by putting a wrap on it, but I would guess that by wrapping it on every single car, it's not a competitive advantage and it still makes it tamper-proof. But that's what those honeycomb marks are. They're on this car, and you can see some on the Gen 7 car as well in a few places. I'm pretty sure the first generation of the Camry body had that. I just rebodied a bunch of them with the newer body, the Toyota Crown looking body. I'm not sure if they released that car in the US or not, but it looks like the Toyota Crown to me, the new generation, the 24, 25 body. But that's what that mark is. This question comes from Deborah Snyder. How does your wife feel about you building all this cars and having all of this stuff at your house? Does she support what you do? Is it something that she likes, and is it something that she does as well? Well, pretty simple question. My wife and I have been together for 37 years. I've known this woman, and we've been married for more than half of that and raised 2 adult children who are completely awesome. One still lives at home, one's in the Air Force out in Utah. My wife has supported every single thing I've done in motorsports from the time we were kids till today. Hialeah Speedway, Miami Hollywood, West Palm Beach, Moroso Motorsports Park, Volusia County, South Alabama, Five Flags, numerous speedways across this country. I've lost count. She has supported every single bit of that along the way. She has never said, you can't do this, you can't do that. She's been there when I built street stocks, late models, worked with race teams, worked without race teams, during war, deployments, hurricane deployments, storm response. She has been 100% supportive of what I do, and I think that's a very good working portion of a relationship. Knowing her, she's known every ups and down I've ever had. She's dealt with PTSD that I've had. She's dealt with every operation I've gone through, and she's supported me in every single thing I've done. The big takeaway from all of this, and a lot of people don't, what's the best way to put it? A lot of people don't separate what they do, not only as a hobby or a sport or a passion, from what their household needs, and that's one of the things that I do. Everything I can do that pertains to building this car didn't take $1 single from my household. Every single thing I did with this car was done with my own 2 hands, my own earned money that keeps this self-sustaining. That's what that is. She has supported every single bit of that. Not once have we missed a house payment or a light bill because we own our property. We own our house, we own our vehicles, I own everything in this building, and we live a debt-free lifestyle, and that is because of her. Every bit of money I've taken, she's used to pay down debt, and she continues to support what I do. On the flip side, every single thing she does, I support. Doesn't matter what it is. She is the love of my life, and if supporting that thing makes her happy, we go to anime shows, comic book stores, we watch movies, we do a ton of things together because she is the love of my life, and she supports every single aspect of what I do, and in return, I support every bit that she does. And in doing so, our children, our 2 adult children, have seen exactly how a relationship works and how one member should treat the other, what level of respect you should expect from a partner, and how you should expect to be treated. I don't see this, you know, one person's more superior than the other person's more superior. Maybe it's because we grew up as kids and we both saw what we went through as kids and how we lived and how our parents raised us and the things we went without and the things we had. It was just something that we worked towards together. We both support each other. We support each other's hobbies. We take time off to do things for the other. And I don't see that there's anything wrong with any person in life doing that for someone that they love, they're in a relationship with, and that they care about. Great question. I appreciate it. This question, it kind of strikes a nerve with a lot of different people, and I think this one's kind of funny. It's more of a statement that I get a lot of times, and I'm sure many of you get it. But Rick Dobson says, must be nice to be rich and have everything you want. Good for you. Well, let me just say this. This goes back to what I was saying about being, you know, young and growing up with my wife and her being a friend of mine. You know, people like to punch up. People do that shit all the time. I see it all the time. You know, F you, F this, F that. I don't go hunting down, you know, Mustang for him saying, must be nice to have a Mustang. I don't care. I don't punch down. You know, people that are on the bottom, that are pissed off about stuff, they punch up all the time and they have negative things to say about people on top. You never see people saying something negative about someone with cancer, someone that's lost a child, someone that's going through a heartache. No, it's when you're excelling that people punch up and they talk shit about you. Must be nice. You know, People say must be nice quite often, and I heard that at Americana. Oh, must be nice to own this truck and car. Too bad it ain't a Chevy. Well, if you don't like what you see, keep walking. But nobody says, when I'm over there sucking sand back in 2003 and 2004, and there's a war going on all over around me, I didn't see anybody standing there in the desert saying, must be nice to be here getting shot at. I didn't see a person, you know, Hurricane Katrina, my wife and I lost our house, lost everything we had. I didn't see anybody standing there in a puddle, waist deep, saying, must be nice you lost your house. You know, like I said, it's people that like to punch up, that talk shit and talk trash and try to make themselves feel better or elevate themselves better than anybody else. If you're one of those people doing it, you really need to take a look in the mirror and figure out what's wrong in your life and why you feel so miserable and move on. You know, the whole must be nice, you know, must be nice that you're rich. You know what? That's a part of perspective. What do you consider rich? What is rich to you? To me, there's no difference between a $10 bill and a screwdriver. They're both tools to help me achieve a goal and move forward in life and get what I need done. Money does not make you a better person. I don't care how much money you have. From what I've seen, not only on the internet, but on the news and in media, the more money you have, it seems to be the more deviant that person is, and they use that money to cover up their deviant acts and the dumb shit that they do. That doesn't make them a person. I know someone that had constantly said, oh, they have money, they're good people. Having good money doesn't make you a good people. It doesn't drive your moral compass. You know, am I rich? I'll tell you in the way that I am rich. I live a debt-free life. I have living expenses, water, electric, utilities. If I get up in the morning and go to work to restore a race car, great. If I don't want to, I can take 13 days off in a row if I felt like it. Nobody's turning the lights off. Nobody's taking my house. Nobody's going to shit on my lifestyle. My kids are healthy. My marriage is amazing. I'm married to a beautiful woman. I love her to death. My kids are great. One's in the Air Force in Utah. The other just turned 18. My kids love me. I love my kids. We have a healthy relationship. Does that make me rich? Absolutely. The amount of money I have in my pocket does not. And if that is something that you're gauging your life on, is your life is good dependent on the wealth you have or the house you live in or the car you drive, you're gauging your life off material objects, and you're probably not fulfilled inside, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally with the things that you need. It's an interesting statement that I've constantly seen and I've heard. I've seen people comment on other people's posts saying the same thing, must be nice. Man, you know, if that's your mentality, must not be nice. And I hope you find what you need. For you guys that have watched this channel, I greatly appreciate every one of you that has watched this channel and the positivity you've put out there and the comments that you've made. I'm not here to build a brand. I'm not here to tell you someone else's story. I'm not here to show you someone else's stuff. I'm here to build my race cars, show you how to do it the right way, the way I've learned in and outside of race shops for the past 20 years. Some people don't like the brand of car that I built. That's up to them. I laugh because I hear people shit all over it, but at the same time, I don't see any manufacturer giving them money, having them drive their Gen 7 cars, go testing, go to Talladega, restore something. I don't see that. You know, so if you want to shit on what I build and who I work with or things I do, once again, that's something you need to look at yourself on the inside. Went to Talladega this year. Ford paid for the entire trip. We had a great time. Like I said, I didn't see all those haters that say must be nice. I didn't see them standing around anywhere. So think about the things that you say to people and what kind of impact it has on them and how it doesn't look good on you when you say it. I appreciate every one of you. Once again, please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about the thoughts I just put out there. I'll see you again soon, guys.